Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar show that talks about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of connection to that which is bigger than us and to our pathway in, to our soul's purpose and mission in this life, what we're really here to do, what we're here to learn, what we're here if we're messengers, what we're here to share, and, opens up that big exploration. I love to talk about that with the beautiful people who have also taken the journey for themselves and are landed on the other side in their soul's purpose. I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird, and my favorite thing in life is really like these conversations because I love talking about all the different ways you can find the divine and within you and all around you. And I love guiding people to find it within themselves and in their own lives. So this is like one of my favorite things to talk about and to immerse in. And I love to create the magic over and over and over again for myself and others. So I'm glad you joined us today because today a good friend of mine from Austin, Texas is here. Case is in the house. Welcome, Case Erickson.
Thank you so much for having me, Carrie.
This is going to be such a juicy conversation because this guy is in his knowing and he's very great. Okay, so Case is a former restaurateur turned business coach, author, and Tedx speaker. He takes on a brave new world of authenticity and self-expression in his first book, Coming Out by Going In, The Freedom to Be Yourself. There it is. Oh my gosh, and it's been a journey, and we're going to talk about it because I've been witness to part of this journey, and it's powerful. In it, he describes overcoming the religious trauma that comes with growing up gay in a Southern Baptist world. Oh my goodness, it's been stressful. His trials in starting multiple businesses, his failed heterosexual marriage, the rewards and challenges of being a father himself, and reconciling the death of his conservative Marine Corps father with the reality of how to live his most authentic life with the days he personally has left. This is such a powerful conversation we're going to have. So I'm really excited. In addition to personal anecdotes, Case gives readers an inspired action for each of the chapters. So you really want to check out this book because, you need to come out of whatever closet of fear you have, no matter your sexual orientation. So this is a conversation that applies to everybody in whatever closet of fear they have. And you're going to be so inspired. So thank you, Case, for coming on the show. Wow. I'm really glad you're here.
Thank you, Carrie.
So, okay.
You ready to come out?
I'm ready to come out. And you guys have to follow him on Facebook because he does like ridiculous, silly videos on Facebook with his kids. And anyway, so it's super funny. So tell us, paint us a little nutshell of how you got, I know it's really hard to put it in a nutshell because your journey, I've been just witnessing it and there's a lot to say. But I don't know that you can, but give us a pathway into finding out about how you really, started revealing yourself in life.
Well, it's so interesting because, this is like the book I was just telling. I was at this event last night and I was telling people about like how this book has like been writing me. And this is like what coming out, like now everybody needs to know, like I went from Mr. Heterosexual, having heterosexual marriage, all that, and I don't even want to use the word coming out. Like I want to move to a place where we use the phrase like choosing to live authentically. Yeah. And so that's why, I've discovered the universality of coming out, which is why, everybody's got a closet to come out of. But that coming out process is in alignment with our self-expression and overcoming, I don't even like the word overcoming fear, but like dancing with fear and having a healthy relationship with fear. I don't think we'll ever be fear free. I think it's like, oh, thank you, fear. Let's do a little dance, do a little tango, and let me melt it. Let me like swerve around it. Let me do all the things. And fear gives us access to our bravery, our courage, our vulnerability, and all those things. And that is, for me, that is alignment. And that's what, I'm coming into myself. So it's like, okay, like I felt compelled to start telling stories on Facebook. And so I tell the story about heaven and hell and how I got served that message of heaven and hell. And we're all going to go somewhere when I was like eight, not even 9 years old. And like, being terrified for even existing, feeling guilty for existing. And I don't fault my mother in that. And like she wanted to save me from the flames. You know, like she has her story and her narrative and her belief system and what she thinks happens to us when we die. And, you know, but as a human, like me having to overcome that and internalize this conversation that I'm fundamentally flawed. And that's a universal, you know, for a lot of people who grew up in the religious upbringing, doesn't matter what your orientation is. But it was just kind of like nail in the coffin when I hit puberty and started like liking dudes, and I knew that was against God, you know, against the Bible or whatever. So it just really kind of withdrew me into this shell of conformity. Like, here's how we have to act. Here's what you have to do. Here's what a man does. Here's, you know, here's what a Baptist boy does. You don't have sex before marriage. You marry, you know, like one man, one woman, and, you know, you'll be in God's favor. Like this notion of being in God's favor or out of God's favor, or just a lot of like patriarchal, like bullshit, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, exactly.
And so like breaking down and just getting tired of that, getting, you know, it just didn't work for me. And when we're out of alignment, we're out of integrity with who we are, like our life doesn't work. So, you know, having near-death experiences, being addicted to alcohol, you know, being 40 pounds overweight, all these things, this is what I was in the space of, you know, 8 years ago. My children were 5 and 1 at the time. I remember like being 5, like I could remember, I'm like, oh my God, my kids are like legitimate people. Like what I'm doing is impacting who they are and what they think life is. Like they think my way of being is what being a human is. And I was like, I can't, like, it was almost like now or never. And so I chose to live authentically, and I moved from a space of, I call myself an XX gay. So if you're familiar with the reparative therapy at all, are you familiar with reparative?
No, I'm not actually. And maybe our viewers aren't either.
Yeah, so reparative therapy is currently illegal in 18 states. It's very damaging. I think AMA is working on getting it. The American Psychological Association is getting it outlawed. Like, it's a big initiative with the Trevor Project. If you've heard of the Trevor Project, means to end teen suicide, youth suicide. Suicide rates are 33% higher amongst LGBT youth.
Wow.
And majority of those come from children who were kicked out of their homes from religious parents who said, we're not going to approve of your lifestyle. If you want to choose your lifestyle, you have to choose your lifestyle, or if you can't live here, if you're going to live in sin. So there's a lot of work to take on. And so the reparative therapy is about taking, is this notion, this narrative that there's something wrong with you, and here's how to fix it. Here's what your parents did wrong, and here's how to repair what's wrong with you, because the underlying belief is that God created heterosexuality, and anyone living with same-sex attraction, they call it, is against God. And how do you bring yourself back to God? And so like the foundation of it is so harmful on a self-esteem level, because you're starting from, there's something wrong with you. And so
I know this one case, because I had the idea that there was something wrong with me, like from the time that I was like pretty young, you know, and it was from a completely different reason. But yeah, I can really screw you up and send you into like decades of psychotherapy. Go ahead.
Yeah. So there's that.
Tell us more.
And so I just got to the point, was like, you know, I felt like I was against God for me to be gay. And like, I got to the point, I started doing some work with landmark education and taking on this notion of integrity and alignment and all these things. And for the first time, I was 35, I felt like it was okay to be gay. Like whoever God was, like this force of love or whatever, like loved me more than what I thought the law said. And so that started the trajectory of me choosing authenticity. Damn it.
Authenticity.
Choosing authenticity. And so, you know, I just started, you know, being my true self and not hiding that part of myself. So I think we can default to feel like we have to, there's my cat.
Hello, kitty.
Cat's coming here to bless the scene. We all have a propensity to try to be someone that we're not, in order to gain the approval of whoever, our parents or whatever. So, you know, I just started telling these stories on Facebook actually, and people were like, oh my God, you know, you need to put these all together. You need to put a book. So it took me about a couple years to actually put them together. And so it's like a story and an anecdote, but then after I follow, it's like, you know, the first one's like Heaven and Hell, and it has an application section where I talk about, you know, this is This is the illusion of duality, I call it, in this world of suffering versus relief, and how like we're choosing our own suffering inside this notion that there is a heaven and hell later, versus, you know, bringing our heaven in right now and releasing resistance. And our whole journey is about releasing the resistance and letting go of the fear, and coming into, you know, not fighting any certain, you know, high tide, low tide, not fighting any certain part of the ocean, you know, like just reminding ourselves that we are the ocean, and getting down into that deep, deep level where everything is still. And so each one of those chapters and stories follows like a certain concept of heaven and hell, forgiveness versus resentment, you know, life versus death, or whatever. And yeah, and then like an inspired action for you to take on, like whether that be meditation or a bowl burning ceremony with yourself, or a walk around the neighborhood. Like there's a specific thing to do each time as well. So there's actual work. People, you're doing the work of it, you know, like you're forgiving, it's almost like 24 steps of whatever, of self-expression and authenticity. And so as I was writing it, it was like, okay, I'm doing this. Like I'm taking my own advice. You know what I mean? Like I can't physically tell you to be more out there, to push past your comfort zones, to get out there without me doing it. So I was like, God, you know, okay, what, like, we're going to do this now. We're going to, like, more people got to know that I like dick. Is that what's going on?
Apparently so.
Apparently so. Like, hello. So that has been my process with this bad boy. And it's been crazy awesome so far. I love encouraging people in the authenticity conversation, because I think that's what we're here about. So how authenticity impacts wherever you are. If you're in business, so authenticity in business, I call myself queer eye for the restaurant guy. I used to own restaurants, so I understand, you know, branding and execution and strategy and all that, but it's coming from a space of authenticity for me, like me showing up as, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like just queer eye for the restaurant guy, for lack of better words. I just whatever. And so just being able to say that is a thing for me. And, you know, it holds the space. And what I want everybody to know and realize, and I appreciate about you, because you're doing the same thing, is that who they are is a space, is a container, is an allowance for others to do it as well. So it's like you get the space for yourself, for that freedom and that full self-expression and that courage and bravery and vulnerability and all that. But in that, you get to hold space for others. Just like I get to be who I get to be because of shit that went down like 50 years ago at Stonewall with the riots and all these other things. Like people were literally and people are still getting beat up.
That's so crazy.
They're still being killed. It's just because I'm in my little fluffy woo-woo rainbow world does not mean that there's still shit going down in the country and other countries in the world. There's still a lot of work to do. But this is about the going in part of it, is that we can't take on these problems in the world until we are ready to take on the judgment within ourselves. And it's
true.
All an external reflection. So really, really moving past judgment, and what does unconditional love look like? Loving what is, loving the moment. I use a lot of Byron Katie's methodology and coming into loving the present moment. But that constant wave of, you know, coming out and going in, no matter, you know, like, it's like, okay, I'm going to put myself out there, and I'm going to go internal. I'm going to be mindful. I'm going to do meditation. I'm going to ask myself, how is this experience a reflection of me and my personal growth and my evolution and all the things? So that's your nutshell.
That's gorgeous. That's gorgeous. And I would say that is extremely authentic from what I've been witnessing people, because I've known him for a while now, like 8 years or something like that.
Yeah.
A long time. So
I've been on your table. I remember you doing energy work on your table, and you're throwing shit all around me, and feathers and
that's right,
water and holy water, whatever the hell was going on.
Holy water and all kinds of stuff.
Baby Carl in the manger.
And you walked across the fire with me too. So
we did fire walk.
It was a very awesome experience. Thank you for supporting that, by the way. That was my first fire walk.
That was my first too. That was really,
we did it
together.
Gotta
go. Sign me up. What do I do?
I'm doing that. So, you know, here is like, you and I have been reinventing ourselves essentially, but really in the reinvention, it's actually more authentic. It's reinventing in the sense of remembering really like who you really are. And then there's this playfulness, because in the reinvention, it's like, well, okay, if I'm casting off all this other crap that's not me, I get to be expressive, which means I get to invent it. You know,
Yes.
like that's the part I found is to be really fun about identity. And I know that you did a similar journey with me in changing your name, because my name was something else. And I changed my last name because after my divorce and everything,
Yes.
I had this reaction to being like, my last name needs to be some other person's name, and that's a man. What? Why?
Yes. Oh
And
man.
I should have my own identity. And what's my authentic identity if that marriage ended? That he used my dad's name. I love my dad. My dad's since passed, but I love my dad. But like, who am I? And the most authentic, real thing for me was the vision I received of Hummingbird in one of my mystical visions. And that was so powerful. It was like the most powerful thing that ever happened to me. And I thought, that's my message. Like, that's who I am. And I did the same thing as you. I changed my name on Facebook, and people started going, what? For a little while. And then they were like, oh no, this is totally correct. So tell us about your changing of name.
Yeah, for me it was being clear that I did it probably 3 years ago when I was doing food truck stuff, food truck events. Also had, I don't think I had the full-time job at that time. I was just clear like that there was a future persona for me to step into. And if you want to talk really like quantum physics, scientific woo-woo, like time is
Yeah, sure.
nonlinear, like I practice what I call time hopping. And so in my meditation practice, like really embodying that future self. For me, I felt, it was a combination of wanting to embody that future version of myself. And also wanting to create something unique about myself. And, from a personal branding perspective, as author, speaker, coach, and I was like, Brian Erickson, so Brian's my birth name. And there were like 2,500, there was just lots of Brian Ericksons. I'm like, no, let me tell you. So like Case means bringer of light in Latin. And I'm like, that's kind of unique. It's kind of, I feel like it's more like I have a different almost way of being. Like, I'm like, hey, come on, getting Coach Case. I just feel like it's kind of like more coachy starish. And I'm like, okay, the Instagram handle's available and the website's available. Like it was kind of like a branding conversation with myself.
I love that though, because mine was like branding too. I love that you used that. It was personal branding. Absolutely. Becoming the
Totally personal
person
branding. But
that
then I
I knew
changed
I
it. I'm
could
like,
be.
but then I change it, and then like people are like, "So what do we call you? We don't understand." I'm like, "Oh shit!" Like, okay, now I can't go back. I got to save face. So it's been about 3.5 years now, and I feel like it's finally starting to stick for people.
Yeah.
And for me personally, it really kind of broke down the constructs of really who even I am. Like, am I my name? Like, and no, like we are not our names, but we get so attached to them. So it's been a deconstruction process with my attachment to my name. Like, who am I even? My name? Like, no, we're not. Like, when you really want to break down that we are souls in meat suits, like we're not even our names, we're not our genders, we're not our sexual expression, we're not our jobs, I don't want to say we're nothing, but we have the perspective. We have a unique perspective coming through a filter of our life experience and our personalities and our gene codes and all these other things. But that's it. Like we're having the unique experience of I as this perspective coming out of our eyeballs. And that's pretty much it. Anything else that we form as an identity is our ego trying to stay here, trying to make itself more important than the other eyes. And so everyone is I, like it's just one big blob of consciousness having unique experiences of eyes. And I believe the big illusion is that we believe we're separate from each other, because it's exceptionally easy to believe that we're separate from each other because our perspectives are so unique. But just because they're unique doesn't mean that we're separate. So really, really understanding science on an atomic level, like that there is no, like, this is an illusion that the skin ends. Like
Yeah, most of it is space. Like, do you know the ratio of what is space and what is matter? It's like
it's
preposterous.
like ridiculous.
Like,
So like on a molecular level, this is not solid.
It's not.
It's an
It's an
illusion
illusion.
that gets stopped by the speed that the molecules are moving. Like it's like, and so really, really getting into, for me, that was like, okay, like really detaching from all of the things that I thought were my identity. Is it my career? Is it my relationships? Is it my orientation? Is it my name? Like, no, it's like none of it. And so once you break it all down, once I broke it all down, it's like, okay, now kind of how you were saying, like, what can we create? How can we express ourselves? How can we play? Like, get out of this. Bleh.
Then you're tapped into the bigger miracle, which is the fact that you can even have these damn debates with yourself. Like that itself is the miracle,
Right. Exactly. So yeah, it's been a great journey so far, and painful, certainly no shortage of pain. The entrepreneur journey is one is just like, fuck, seriously? Like,
Well, but I got to say, being an entrepreneur is challenging. And of course, it's interesting that I also am one. But, that's how we resonate together. So we understand each other because we go through some of the same challenges.
yeah.
But I found in my journey of healing for myself that, that being an entrepreneur and being successful requires confidence. And confidence is directly impacted by how your parents feel about you, like for a while, until you claim over that role for yourself, like until you claim to be your own parent and your own, sovereignty. The opinions of your parent and your family really jack with your confidence in order to do anything in your life. Like you've got to heal that first, that little child. So like, I can't even begin to imagine, the censure and things that you experienced and how that impacted your ability to be successful.
Yeah, the parental thing is a bit of a thing for sure.
It's a bit of a thing.
My dad being a Southern Baptist, actually went to Dallas Baptist Theological Seminary because he wanted to be a pastor. However, he was a lieutenant colonel in the Marines as well. So I tell people, I'm like, oh, that's some karma, like poor little Marine pilot dude. Like he was a navigator, flew F-4s for the Marines. And I'm all like, let's play with stickers and ribbons and yeah. Like,
he's like, where's my macho son?
He's like, he did not know how to process me. And especially under the constructs of his legalism and all that. Like it was like twofold process for me to like you said, when you said I had to take a moment to breathe, like to be your own parent. I think that for me, that's definitely been my journey. And I don't know if have you read any of the works of Neville Goddard?
No, I haven't, but that's another really interesting thing.
Oh yeah. If anyone is watching or listening and they've got any conversations around religious upbringing, like literalism, overcoming literalism in Bible stuff, definitely recommend, because his perspective has been very, very unique in the metaphor of all of it and taking on these Bible stories as actual just stories and what that would look like, and realizing that we are the central character. We are the Christ. We are, and all the disciples are parts of ourselves and things that fight against us. And like, it just blew my mind. Like Your Faith is Your Fortune is one of his better known books, came out in the 40s, I believe. And just really like, but like realizing, we're all the Father and the Son, and realizing that we are one, and we're here like the resurrection, like we are our own resurrection, and like bringing like born again, like what born again means inside of a totally different construct from literalism. Like it's not a literalistic interpretation of it. And so like, that's what I've been taking on and reconciling my relationship with my father, with my mother, and with these pseudo rejections. It's like, okay, thank you. And it's what I call the gift of contrast. And, if you follow Abraham Hicks or anything like that, like embracing what we know what we want because we experience what we don't want. So anytime I come up to an experience of I'm like feeling like I don't want it, it's like, okay, thank you. This is giving me access to know what I do want. Thank you. And what can I learn? And just being mindful of that, and not like, this is no, not this, not this, not this, not this, not.
Because we can get into that space, especially as sensitive people. I think, You know, what I've learned about being sensitive is that that the people around me, when my mom, for example, you know, didn't understand why I was so sensitive about everything, you know, and then they
Mhm.
used the word victim with me. And
Mm.
I don't like that actually because that's not true. What it is a refinement of perception. Like I'm able to perceive things at a more refined level than some people around me, which means that they don't understand what I'm saying because they can't perceive at that refined level, but I can. And so other people that are also perceiving at the level I'm perceiving, they totally understand what I'm saying and they feel it too. They feel that refinement in the energy that like it's like because there's a density and then there's like it lightens as you get more refined in your perception, like it, you know, you can have more, I don't know, space in between the space to play with it. I'm still thinking like I don't know if this is explaining it, but in the density level, like there's just like it's like this way or that way. It's very black and
Mm.
white, you know.
Yes.
And then there's like all this gray stuff, you know, when you're able to perceive more refined way, and I don't know why I could, I just could, I'm just filtered that way, then these things feel really painful because they're so like, "Gah!"
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's just moving into that lightness. I like to think of like getting out of resistance because like fighting it is still more of it.
It is, and you can't
And we
fight it.
haven't like, but if that's my dominant vibration, like I'm just gonna continue to get more
More
shit for
of
me to
it.
fight with because I'm like, okay, this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I do. Ah, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. And the
And it
universe is
covers up
like,
the heart. It covers up your heart with all this crust, and then you know, then you're not open-hearted the way you want to be, you know?
yeah, so I mean, for me, it's about really vibrating at the frequency of a solution or whatever the solution is. If it's like getting this fucking book done, pardon my language, but it's like when I'm like, you know, having some other breakdown in my business or my finances or my career or my the relationship with my ex-wife or my relationship with my father. You know, my father tells me, you know, the what did he say? One of the last times that I talked to him, he told me that the acceptance of homosexuality was the precursor for the downfall of society. And so he's like, you accept homosexuality, the world is over. Pretty much what he was saying to me, to my face.
Wow.
Like and I was just like, okay, you know what? Like there's no drama. I totally understood in that moment, like, you know, 4 agreements. Like it's not about me. I'm not taking it personally.
This is totally his worldview, but you know,
It's
but that's the thing is
projecting.
like that's why you have to become your own parent because while your little child is in there with a parent that says, and you know, like the role is being taken by this other person who says these things to you, like you can't heal. And so the only way to heal is to replace that father figure with you. Like you
Yeah, like
have to do that.
yeah, and I think that was one of my large complaints with him was like, I love my cat, like I'm obsessed with them. I'm like, oh, God, you're just so perfect. Oh God, oh, like that was a large reason why I couldn't accept Christian the Christian story as I understood it because I'm like, what did me like? I would not punish my daughter for something my son did. That's just not fair. Like, why would I believe in
Yeah.
invisible sky grandpa who'd punish me for something somebody else did 3,000 years ago? Like, that doesn't even make sense. So, like, I'm constantly taking on universality and like what we're doing here because the existence of my children, you know, push me into more spaces of love and understanding and just all this juicy good. I'm like obsessed with what they make possible for me just with their existence. And so I'm so grateful to have them in my experience right now. And like, I'm like, almost was like, what the fuck is wrong with my father? Like
Yeah.
why doesn't my father love me this way? You know, like why isn't he obsessed with me? You know, like I'm so obsessed with my kids. And like, so I got to dissect my own attachment, my own expectation of him that he be anything other than who he is. And I'm just like, no, like this is who he is. Like he's attached to his story of heaven and hell and gays go to hell and this whole narrative that he's bought. He's attached to a story and he's making it possible for me to show the impact of an attachment to story. And I get to detach from my own story of what I think a father should be. So I'm like, thank you, Dad. There's the possibility that exists that you agree to play a certain role. Like, we're all gods here, and like, you're going to go play this, and you're going to, I'm like, let's not be all so goddamn serious about this movie right now. Like, let's go do this. And this is like a blip on the blip on the radar, grain of sand. Okay, I'll go be the bad guy. I'll go cheat on you. I'll go be the asshole. Like, so you can understand that you're here to resurrect yourself. You are your own salvation, and thank you, and release. And so it's like letting us all off the hook, letting myself off the hook, letting my dad off the hook, letting my mom off the hook, letting everybody off the hook, just to go be themselves unconditionally, but then allowing myself to be myself unconditionally, bringing that unconditioned, like there's no conditions to love. Like, there are no conditions. Like, I'm going to love my bank account as is. I'm going to love my body as is. I'm going to love my career as is. I'm going to love it all as is, because that's what unconditional love is. It drops the conditions to a love experience. And so when he said that about me, the acceptance of homosexuality being the precursor to the downfall of society, I was like, I think we're through here. Because you also have the reality of these boundaries and what's a healthy boundary for you and how you're going to experience it. So I stopped trying for his approval at, I don't even know what I was, like 38, 39, maybe 40. I don't know how old I was at the time. I stopped.
Well, that wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't that long ago at all. Like,
it was on his deathbed. It was
3-4 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
And so, no, it wasn't on his deathbed. It was actually
before.
almost 2 years before he had his stroke. And so I just was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to stop trying so hard. Like, I am who I am, and it's too much for him to handle. And it's not about me. It's about him. So there was no big dramatic thing. It was just like, I'm going to stop calling. I'm going to stop texting. If he wants to call me, fine.
He didn't. I remember you wrote about this. And then he didn't.
He didn't.
This is the part I don't understand. But because I'm in a similar situation where I had to basically break my family system has a paradigm of needing a scapegoat to be wrong for everything. And that was me for a while. And I finally said, I'm not doing that role anymore. Like, I'm really done with that role. So I'm stepping out of the family system while the family system chooses to have me as the scapegoat. And then they tried to put it on my son. And I was like, no, we're not doing that either. In other words, the family system has to change for us to engage in it. And their answer was like, no, we like it this way. So they eventually, without me and my son, they're going to have to find another scapegoat eventually, because that's how it works.
Yeah.
And at some point, maybe they'll realize that that's what's happening. I've tried to point it out, but there's deaf ears when people are playing in their paradigm. Now that makes me sad though. So I understand the dynamic, but it also makes me sad, Case, because I feel like, gosh, this is such a waste of time. We're alive. Let's be friendly. Let's just put down the stuff but it's not that easy for people. They can't just stop the patterns. Because they have to believe it that they're doing it first. They don't want to see it. So then they try to exclude you and, well, good, you're gone. Because then you're gone. I don't have to think about this anymore.
Right.
Until it happens again, which you inevitably will. Because somebody's got to hold the stuff for everybody if they're not willing to hold it.
Right. And so it's probably maybe 18 months went by between that time that I was just I decided, and he just didn't birthdays, holidays, Thanksgiving, my kids' birthdays, nothing, crickets.
And how did you feel during that process though? I mean, what was going on inside of you during that process?
I was just okay. I was surprised that he would not at least try. And again, I was just of the awareness of, this is not about me. This is his journey. This is something he's providing me. His rejection is providing me with an opportunity for me to approve of myself.
See?
And so thank you, Father, for, I don't have it that anyone is right or wrong. I have it that are either remember who we are or we don't. We're in different awarenesses of remembrance. And so I'm like, okay, maybe he doesn't remember that he is unconditional love. Let me just hold him in a space of unconditional love by dropping my conditions that he send me a text for my birthday or call me on my birthday. Like, it's not easy to do, but what would unconditional love do? Would unconditional love be angry at him for that? Or would unconditional love be like, I love you for your journey. I understand your narrative and your brainwashing and whatever's going on where he is unable to express love to his own son, is he's unable to express love to himself. And so just holding him in a space of almost prayer, reverence of may he come into full self-acceptance and full self-expression. And, he didn't really. Like 18 months later, I get the call from my mom that he had a stroke and he had over 20 brain tumors, and he was gone 4 months later. Literally it was like so fast. We had kind of a conversation after that. My mom was like, do you want to talk? So I was always like, I won't call my dad unless he calls me. And then my mom was like, so do you want to talk to your father? And I'm just like, and then I finally decided, like, no, like, yes, there's nothing bad that would come about. Like, what am I really afraid of? So, I mean, I did talk to him and he was like crying, like he was incoherent a lot because of the brain tumors. And so he was like crying, and he never cried ever. Like he cried when,
Wow.
like,
Maybe that's what he needed to break himself of
he cried
this.
once, like when one of our animals died, and we're all like, what? Okay. You love the animals anyway.
He
So
never cries for us.
he
So
doesn't cry. Yeah. So, but I mean, it was good. Like he was just like, Jesus is going to take me. And, he had his whole thing. And I feel like he made, and it's just to bring it full circle. I mean, I got to process so much of, and I go into it, fly, daddy, bird, fly. It's like the last chapter of my book of, reconciling this whole notion that our parents, be anyone other than who they are, is an opportunity for us to come into our full alignment and our full authenticity, regardless of the narratives that we grew up under, and really, really come into that space of full freedom and full self-expression, and really like release him, into that space. I had a really, really deep, beautiful meditation where it was kind of like, you follow Abraham Hicks. Do you follow Abraham Hicks?
I love Abraham Hicks. I follow Paul Selig more. Like I listen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Paul fan as well. So in my meditation, I had this experience where I was speaking to Abraham Esther, and she was looking at me, and I just felt overcome with unconditional love. Like I felt seen, and I just felt like it's kind of one of those moments where you're filled with the good goosebumps, God bumps, whatever you want to call it. And I just felt on a cellular level, just like light and free and accepted, and just everything was okay. I felt seen. I felt like known, you know what I mean? And I was just like, and it's just like so beautiful. And then like something really, really powerful shifted in that vision, where then I became the Abraham looking out and expressing that unconditional love. And then my father was me. Like in that scenario, like a young father version, like I was seeing myself, like my father was me, and I was giving that unconditional love to my father, and that my father had been, I still get emotional thinking about it, because like it was almost as if my father had been trapped in this space energetically. And this was after he passed, that I had this experience where it was like he was still not forgiving himself.
Yeah.
And still not accepting that forgiveness is possible and unconditional love is an actual real thing that we can give each other. And so it was like I was giving it to him, but in that space of giving it to him, like I set him free and I set myself free. It was just beautiful. I was like, like I was
So many
like,
good tears. So many good
such
tears.
a mess, but it was such a
Yeah.
beautiful gift to have that experience. And I think that's what I want everybody to remember about their pain, is that it's access to approval, it's access to freedom, it's access to everything.
Yeah, because, and I agree with you. I was really glad you took the conversation where you did, because those are all the same downloads that I get and things that I that I know for are true for myself.
Yeah.
And I know them, and I know them at a deeper and deeper cellular level. Like every time I open to it again, I know it deeper. I know it deeper. So if you're out there and you're like, well, I cognitively know this, but I don't feel it yet. I'm still struggling with the thing. That's okay. Like in my experience has been a journey. It has not been like I know it, now I am changed. It's like, no, like I have to do the work. Like I got to write out all that. Like I made a list of all the gifts I got from my mom. Like
Mm.
my mom, did this, and this is the gift I got from it. And she was like this, and this is the gift I got from it. And, because I got gifts from all of those painful patterns that I resisted, and I thought this is mean and this isn't how people should be. But I got something from all of those. It made me the person I am today. So, if she hadn't have been that way, I wouldn't be the person I am now. It's just
Yeah.
flat out true. Now, the only thing I had problems with, because I'm still not done with it, is the part that you've already transcended, was your dad did pass. So I think it makes a shift, but it's like, I still I have this little piece of me that's like, this just like, really, you're just gonna go out and that's it? Like, you're really just gonna let it end that way? Like, there's not a happy
Well,
ending?
that's an expectation. I mean, you're attached to
I
an
mean, I'm
expectation that it
attached
be.
to the happy ending. I'm attached to the part where we all come together and we say, gosh, we are souls, and that was sure a ride, and let's just wake up now and be giving each other a hug, because that sure was some messy shit. Like, I just want that part, but maybe I was gonna have to wait to the afterlife to get that. But that's the that's the part where
Yeah, like it's
I'm
like
still addicted to the happy ending. Like, I just want us
uh,
all to come back together again, and it's gonna be okay.
I
And
think
I
it's about
don't know that that's
accepting
gonna
this.
happen.
Yeah, getting to a point where you accept other people's perspectives as just their perspectives. I mean, my mother doesn't want to read the book. She's not ready to read the book, and I don't have like I'm legitimately like I get it. Like I get so in her narrative, and she loves me. I've always felt supported by her. She's supported me like financially and all these other things. And like, she's a mom, like she stepped in and kind of, I don't want to say overcompensated for my father's rejection, but she's like, oh, she took me to, she took me to get my first perm when I was in third grade. Like, can you imagine? I'm like, that's why my hair fell out.
It's
But
funny.
she's like, I just wanted you to get what, and like, I just wanted to be Tom Selleck. Like I had a crush on Tom Selleck when I was in third grade. I'm like, oh my God, he's so hot. Can I have
I liked Tom Selleck too. I think we're the same
like, can you
generation.
imagine? Like, so she was a great mom. You know what I mean? Like, she's like, I'm going to take my little boy to get us perm. Like, and so she has a whole story too, which I go into. Like, she had to give up a baby girl for adoption when she was 17 and growing up in the 60s, and she got rejected by her mother and all of the things. So coming from where she came from, she did an amazing job. And she's very attached to the narrative. She worked for Pat Robertson, televangelist, for like 23 something years. And so very literalist. And so I don't think I would like to think that it's possible for her to come into the space of an advocate for me, and especially with my orientation, but that has yet to happen. I don't know if that will ever happen. It's just not like, she loves me, but it's like, and she doesn't like, everyone's a sinner. Like she knows that she's called to love. And so in that regard, I appreciate that. And it's like, she has me as the prodigal son, like, well, eventually like he'll come back to the Lord, and come back. Like, and I've told her multiple times, I'm like, I love that story because I'm the father and the son, and I have already found my way back.
Yeah, I'm
Like
already here. It is. I'm looking at you.
I'm it, and I found it. And I love it. It's the best story ever. And I'm like, I celebrate myself. And like, because she's more like, but you're, like you need to
But
like,
you're not following along with our rules.
we're not
So,
following along with the rules. And so,
yeah.
I receive the love because she feels called to love and all that. And it's like, I'm still the prodigal son in her narrative of like literalism, like coming back to the church. I'm like, I don't go to church. Like, ew. Like, not that there's anything wrong with church, but for me, it doesn't work. And she's taught like all the Sunday school and like the retreats and the women's retreats. And I mean, she wrote a book. And I was like, and so
That's cool.
yeah. And so she's like ministry, like she's all about the ministry. I mean, like Bible through and through. And I've also felt like she loves me to the capacity that she can love me given her belief system and given what she believes. Like she really, really believes the literal interpretation of all of the things in the Bible that say there's a part of me that's against God. And that's okay because I cannot force anyone to think whatever they want to think.
No.
He's going to think it, and we're going to have the kind of relationship that we're going to have because she's choosing to believe what she's choosing to believe. And our relationship isn't, I'm like, oh my God, mom, I dated this guy and I da 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 da. Cause there's like that, it's not,
Yeah, you can't talk about that.
it can only be so deep. But so it's like, it's up to
Ah,
me.
you're
Like,
talking about my relationship
like
before all this
I
happened.
can't share everything, and that has to be okay, because if I don't make that okay, I'm going to suffer. So it's like, okay, here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the weather and what's going on with your Sunday school stuff, and that's fine. I appreciate your love. Like, you're not going to be marching in the pride parade. You're not going to like be like, look at what my son did, look what he wrote about coming out by going in and overcoming religious trauma, because you don't think you're not traumatized by it. It's your salvation. And so that's fine, because at the end of the day, it is about me. Our own journeys are about ourselves and coming into that validation and that acceptance and that unconditional love. And so I get to balance that reality with a boundary of like, okay, this is just what our relationship is going to be. And how can I supplement that? Like, I've got friends who accept me, and I can talk about how I'm a big giant hoe bag with them, you know. And
Yeah, she's not going to want that
sexual
conversation.
expression and sex positive and all these narratives around. I mean, we didn't even talk about that with like sexuality and sexual expression for, well, I don't care where you are on the spectrum, and gender expression, all the other stuff, and church and rationalizing all that, all those things. And what I talked about on the Sex and the Pews show.
Yeah, go check that. Go check
Yeah,
out
go
that
check that out. Sex and the
episode,
Pews is
Sex
really
in the
great.
Pews.
But
I'll put a link to it down in the show
yeah,
notes.
and so it's like, again, coming full circle about just like releasing the attachment. That's all it is. It's of releasing the attachment in each and every moment. I don't care if we're talking about my relationship with my mom, my dad, or the cashier, or my bank account, or whatever. Like, it's like every day is a thing. Like, and who I'm going to show up as a connected, integral, universal part of unconditional love. How's unconditional love going to transact at the grocery store, at the bank, in line at Starbucks, or whatever? Are you going to be like, my fucking father, he's not giving me my love today. Give me my latte, or
Yeah, you can be like all miserable.
you
That's
can,
what I
right.
finally realized. It's like I started daring to be happy,
Right.
because part of me was like, well, you can't be happy if you're not, if it's not resolved. And I was started breaking that agreement. I was like, no, that's not true, actually. Like, I can be free and happy and grateful and connected and know that I'm okay. And I will, like, everywhere I go, I make friends. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm fine. Like
Like,
I'm like I make friends very easily. There's nothing wrong here. So I
yes.
like,
Like,
okay,
as a
that
reality, like
as a reality, like
you
things
can
are
actually
fine.
have fun. You can actually create your own heaven in the present moment by
Yes.
letting yourself off the hook and letting everyone else off the hook, that they be or it go.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, it really is what you think about, you bring about, and what you focus on expands. What you
And
focus on expands.
I'd rather expand than contract. And when I look at some of my family, my of origin, it's like it keeps shrinking. It's like it's all shrinking and getting tighter and smaller and tighter and
Yeah.
smaller and tighter and
Yep.
smaller. And I'm like getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's like, why would you want to be tighter and smaller? That's okay. You're having that experience. You're choosing it.
Well, I think,
I'm choosing this.
it's your expansion. Like, I think we're all here for expansion. And people literally like agreed to play roles of forgetting, and everyone's on different spectrums of remembering.
Yeah. Some people decided
And
to be forgetters.
that's okay, because eventually, because we're here to expand, the universe is constantly expanding. We're no exceptions. Our consciousness and our unique perspectives of I is no exception to this. Like, those things will fall away, and we'll continue to expand, and like literally come to a space of world peace in my own world. And because I'm committed to that, because I understand that everything in the world, I am part of it. like that's going to expand. Like the lineage of who I am and what I'm bringing into my children is a different way of being for them. And like the people who are left over, like they're going to shrink, and I don't want to say die, like, but it's true. Like
Yeah, but they're
everyone's either
kind of
going to
holding the
die
old and
or
dying
evolve.
away.
Like
In
it's
a way,
die or evolve.
they're dying away, and so because actually, and we have to wrap it up, but Case, like I looked up my mom's human design type just because I was super curious, like
Mm.
why is she this way? And I looked it up just to understand. She actually is supposed to be fixed. If she changes, it's uncomfortable for her. Like it's not right. She has to be fixed, 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 and can't change, and stubborn and critical and all the things. Like everything, she's like, there it was. I'm like, who chooses that? And I thought, well, she chose it. And like, I would not want that role. Like, I would not be comfortable in that at all, like staying so fixed. Because
Mm.
for me, everything is expansion and transformation. That's my human design type. Like, I have to expand, I have to transform, I have to change. And if I don't, I feel stuck and uncomfortable. So, so I think we're
Yeah.
opposites. I think,
Yeah.
some people like that. And actually, when I had my journey with White Eagle's like, some really old souls can pretend to be baby souls really well. Kind of telling me like,
Yeah.
your mom is no spring chicken, and she chose this for on behalf. Like it was an act of love to hold that forth.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I know it's true, and I just need to accept it. I already have the messages. I told you. So, well, this is beautiful. This is really beautiful. Thank you so much for this interview. I loved it. And what a pleasure. I'm really glad you wrote this book. I'm more than that. I'm really glad that you did the work and you were persistent with the work. I know it has been challenging for you along the way, because you and I have had conversations here and there, and it's like, in the moments of things. And I know it's been challenging, and I know that you really stuck with it. And so thank you for doing that. And thank you for bringing such powerful words and wisdom into the world. Thank you so much, Case.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you. Back, bing, 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 bing,
Bing,
back
bing,
at
bing,
you.
back at you. So, is there any place you want people to get started with you? Just a link to the book, or is there a website or something to find out more
Case
about you?
Erickson is just CASE Erickson, Erickson at caseerickson.com. Everything's on there, and connect on all the social channels and stuff as well. So
Beautiful.
yeah.
So go check out his book, and please like and share this episode of Soul Nectar Show with anybody who's going through the detox of, really religion and,
All the
literalism
things.
and all the stuff, all
Humanity.
the human stuff. And just, like share it out, please, because I think this broadcast was really helpful in navigating that journey. And so please share it out, like, comment, subscribe, and go get Case's book and write a review on Amazon, because that will help it get found more. So please write a review. It's one of the ways that Amazon makes sure that people see things, or not. So is whether you write a review or not. Okay.
Yeah.
It's really important. And we're going to give kisses. Would you like to join me in giving kisses? Just give kisses to the audience. Here they come, everybody.
Mwah, mwah, mwah. Oh, you're like, mwah. I'm like, mwah, 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 mwah. I'm like the car
However
wash.
you do it.
I'm like the car wash kiss. Like, mwah, 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 mwah.
That's awesome. We'll see you guys next week on Soul Nectar Show. Bye for now.
Bye.